So you can be as brutally honest with me as you like. But if you say my name, my friend, don't say it like this. This is like you don't love me no more or something.
Filexican
What?
Filexican
What?
Filexican
What's up with that, man?
Say my name, bitch. Say my name, bitch. Say my name, bitch.
The Filexican. Did I say that in a way that is offensive? I had this image in my mind of, it's the Filexican. The Filexican. You see? It's like we're on back in the old shoot 'em up days, and there's a crowd gathered around the dusty streets, and out from the backlit sun area, here comes a shadowy figure, and I say, look, brothers and sisters, here comes the Filexican, and the hush comes over the crowd. I get something like that anyway. Alright, so let's go over some of this video here. So it is perfectly fine for you to disagree with me, for anyone to disagree with me. If you look at my channel page, you'll notice that I let plenty of trolls come on in the door. I invite them in. Come on in, trolls. Right? As long as I don't post 5,000 comments. My blocking policy is, I got a pretty low, pretty high bar rather of blocking people. But they come on, and so it's not a disagreement. You could disagree with me all you like, but there has to be an understanding that you'll have to use some critical thinking when watching my videos of when I actually believe something is actually fact, or when it's just me taking guesses, or when I use the word, well, I believe it could be this, right? It's not written in stone, many of the things I say, but it's a process. We work through this. Those clicks, those sounds, those knocks, all that stuff on there, that could be anything. All right, we know that. We don't have George's statements, and outside of that, well, what do we got, right? We got to just guess. And whether or not they play into any kind of meaningful way or not is really kind of yet to be determined, isn't it? So we can't say, well, why dedicate a video to this or that? Well, we don't really know what's important, right? Something could seem insignificant and later to turn out to be somewhat actually significant. So let us not discount things until we are through, let's say. So the first problem you had was where I say, I believe he could be saying, I still see my truck. Well, I can't say why he said that. If he discusses it in his statements, hopefully we'll know if he in fact did. But it could be any various amounts of reasons. I mean, he clearly sounds distracted to me. Right? He sounds distracted, like he's trying to do something. Whatever that is, I don't know. And when he talks, what I believe he's talking to himself when he talks like that. Because it doesn't sound like the rest of the call with that part and then with the part later, where I think he says something like the keys are on my truck or in my truck or something like that. He says something, and he's saying it while the dispatcher is talking, that second one. But both of those, they sound similar to me in a way that sounds different from the rest of the call. Right? It sounds like he's talking out loud to himself at the same time as the dispatcher. So when he's giving those directions to where the police ought to come into, and he kind of seemingly, it sounds to me like he almost interrupts himself because he's distracted with something else at that point. Sort of like when you're on the phone and your wife or somebody's in the room with you and they're doing something and you kind of just say something in the middle of talking to somebody else. I mean, these conversations are not This is the way life works. It gets messy like that. So we don't know. And again, we don't know the significance of it, right? If there be any significance. It's nothing to get too hung up about. Right? I'm just making videos here, so it's not like I'm testifying to a court and they ought to take my word. I have no delusions of grandeur here. If anybody of any import ever hears anything I have to say, who knows? I don't. I'm not trying to make that sort of effort. Okay, yes, what I'm saying, does the door play any role? Well, the door is made of steel, right? More likely a stainless steel, perhaps some aluminum or something on there. But some cheap steel or something. So the sounds sound like steel to me. So he's got a flashlight, he's got that little flashlight and the bigger 5-inch flashlight. We got that doggy station there. He's got a gun, and we got that door. So any kind of steel knocking noise, and some of those noises literally do sound like a knock. Oh, that was me, stupid bitch. Damn it. Okay. Where was I? So in the comments section there regarding that door, I was having some conversation there with Roofer and kind of working it out, and I went and my first instinct was, well, perhaps he really knew somebody well that lived there. And that could explain that if he did try to enter, that could explain that. If he knew somebody really well and had that kind of relationship with that person. Right, so it was worth looking into. And the first person I thought of was perhaps that Frank Taft guy. But then I looked up his address, and he lives on the opposite corner of the neighborhood. And so then I went and found out who it was. And that's actually, who that is actually witness number, well, I'll have to look it up again. Okay, that was actually witness number 11. The one who called 911, in which where we hear the screams and yells for help. She works on the HOA board there. Her and like 2 other people, I think she said. She said she knows George, but only at the meetings, and they haven't really talked much there at the meetings. But I don't know that, given that she's on the board, if George, because George was going to the meetings and talking about stuff, but I don't know if George then, given that kind of relationship, if he would have tried knocking on that door to let one of the board members know, if she lives right there, look, we have a problem here. There's some guy running around. I don't know if he would do that. Now, listening to her statements, and then also witness number 20, her boyfriend or husband, whoever it might be, was there as well. He was interviewed as well. And he said that they had their sliding back door all the way open, where that's screened in there. He had that sliding back door, they had it all the way open, and that screen door has like 3 locks on it, and it was locked. So I don't know what that tells you. I'm just explaining what the guy said. But I don't know if he knows George. See, now at the end of, you listen at the end of witness number 11, or I'm sorry, witness number 20's interview, the investigator's trying to ask him if he knows either of the 2 parties that were involved in what he heard. He couldn't answer the question. Let's play his part of the interview, and you can draw your own conclusions.
From the reports that you may have seen, did you know any one of the individuals?
From the reports of the other reports?
Maybe media or the paper, have you run into any of the 2 individuals?
Have I ran into the media?
From what you may have seen in the news media of
Okay.
those who were involved,
Okay.
did you know either of the persons involved?
The only other person I knew was my next door neighbor. But the other ones, I'm still not sure who's who. But yeah, the only one I really know is my next door neighbor.
Okay, so your accounts as to the media and the things that you've been seeing, you don't recognize?
I
or
don't,
know?
yeah, the women who were on TV, I don't know them at all. The only one I know is next door.
So again, the whole point of asking these sorts of things is just kind of mull them over, see what happens, see what comes out the other end. And if and when we ever get George's statements, we can compare it. We can go back to all this shit and see. That's really, we can see, you know. But if it never becomes an issue again, well, then it never becomes an issue again. Well, I understand your point about going too far with the what's plausible. Okay, so I don't entertain the notion that a little crow came down while they were fighting and picked up George's keys and moved them 30 feet over. Or whatever it is. Yeah, okay, no. But they can write whatever they want, right? As long as they're not threatening anybody's life or anything like that. So I'm not going to get hung up on people like say that. That's a little too far out of the realm of possibilities for me, brother. But the fact is, we don't really know what those keys are for. I don't know about you. I mean, Roofer was saying it's common for cops, and you say that George was a want-to-be cop. I want to say that normally that is used by others as derision, using that term, to say that he was the gung-ho type, right? That's why those people say that. So when you're saying it, it's a little different. But anyways, Roofer was saying that cops often tend to hold an extra set of keys like that on them, so when they get out of their vehicles quickly, they can lock it and such like that. Well, is that what George was doing? I don't know that. You don't know that. I find it unusual that somebody would walk around with an extra set of keys hanging out of their pocket or however he would have held it. I find that unusual. So I wonder, yes, what those keys are. If we find out that George drove a Honda vehicle, then certainly I think we could just say, yeah, those keys were for that. But again, if we ever get George's statements, we'll find out if he ever actually discusses the keys. Yeah, I lost my keys and I was looking around it, and that's when Trayvon came out from the darkness or whatever. If he says something like that, then we'll know, right? But then again, that's all the evidence we're gonna have is his statements. So that's obviously not gonna appease anybody else. But at least we got to remember that his statements were given right away. They weren't given weeks later. They were given that night and interrogated throughout the night again. He gave an initial statement on scene. He was there at the station for, 5-6 hours. I have to look it up again, 7 hours something. And then he gave another official statement, and then he gave another official statement, and this is all within a short time frame. So for him to actually think of all the details to make it all look like a lie, well, that's of course what some people will say. But we'll discuss that when the time comes, right? If the time comes. They're really protecting those what they called confessions, right? Some statute there in Florida. Whatever. But also part of the reason why I had to go into all that detail regarding the dropping of the keys was to set up the whole scenario. Was to actually listen to what he was doing at that time, when I believe he was at that place, around that T section of the sidewalk at that time, right? So we can kind of gauge on what's going on. It's a little extra piece of information we have to understand why the keys are there. Does it really help us all that much? Are we any further to clarity? No, but it's at least it's something. It's an attempt, right? I can sit here and say, well, George dropped his keys, and then just leave a comment like that and just move on. But I go into further explanation as to understanding why it's possible that he may have be looking for something. Something happened there. He's distracted. He's moving around. He's banging on things. He's talking out loud. You know, it's something's going on there, right? So I don't know what it is, but maybe it involves those keys.
Now, last time I started talking shit about the stuff you were saying, you what did you say? You like accused me of being a Travenite, and you said that I called your ideas conspiracy to reduce them to madness, and I thought that I thought you usually got away with words, man. And I got a good kick out of that reduce my ideas to madness shit. Is that what I'm trying to do here? No, man. I'm just saying that I don't agree with the goddamn word you just said. I don't agree with none of it.
So yes, it's fine to disagree with everything I say and write up on the board. But when I said that, those comments about you, it was because you were saying things that were very familiar to me regarding people who do not look critically at this case, who have completely bought the false narrative that was purposely constructed from the outset, from within the first few days of Trayvon Martin's shooting. The false narrative was constructed and sold, and the people bought it. Those people have said these past months here, you have said things that were similar. So that's when I was mentioning those comments to you. It's not mere disagreement that I would say that to you. It was not mere disagreement.
None of it. And I question how the guy who came up with that video analyzing the word punks versus the word coons could come up with this video where mumbling is translated into the keys are in my truck, and an obvious direction is translated into I see my truck. How does that shit happen, man?
Talk about the punks coons thing, right? I still can't say I can't say with 100% confidence that he said punks. He very well may have said coons. But I have to put out there, like you're talking about your video, you want to be honest. Well, that's honestly what I thought I heard. I did not hear coons, but other people did. I'm not denying them that they didn't hear that. They were free to comment on my video and say otherwise, and they do to this day, believe it or not. Even though the state themselves, even though the prosecutor themselves say no, it was punks, right? Well, whatever. But I mean, I don't even know how they came to that conclusion. I'm looking at the discovery. I believe the FBI, they couldn't come to a conclusion about it when they sent the tapes to the FBI. So I don't know how the state decided that it was punks. Maybe they watched my video. I don't know. Well, I haven't really realized. So again, you can question me and you can say that you think I'm wrong. That's fine. I don't care. Go ahead. It's just what I think I hear. I could be wrong. I don't know why he would say that. If he explained it in his statements, we'll know. I didn't analyze it as much as... I didn't even analyze it at all. I just listened to it a bunch of times. I didn't throw it in the sound editor and try to do stuff to it and try to figure it out like I did with the punks coons thing. I could do that if you'd like, as much as I can. It's even more difficult because there's a voice talking over it at the same time, but it just sounds that way to me.
I'm concerned for you, brother DeWatt, man. I'm wondering if you're rolling some other shit up in them cigarettes that you've been rolling up for yourself.
Say my name.